Hello friends. I'll be talking about this topic as part of the RRT workshop, the vascular access in dialysis catheters. So I thank ISCCM for giving me this opportunity to present this and be a part of workshops. I thank Dr. Rajesh Mishra, Kanwal, and Dr. Gunjan, who are the coordinators for this workshop. So the vascular access, as you know, is extremely important once you decide that patient should go on dialysis. So it is imperative for everyone listening to this to know which are all the vascular access that one could obtain for doing dialysis and what are the nuances that one needs to understand about this vascular access. So what I'll do is I will show you certain videos. So there are two videos which are shot within my ICU, and then there are certain videos which I've taken from the internet as well, so that you get a comprehensive feel of how these procedures have to be done. So when you look at the insertion sites, so you basically have three insertion sites for a dialysis catheter. The most commonly used one would be the internal jugular vein, and in emergency and in some of the instances, we would use femoral in many of the cases, and then move over to IJV as and when the patient gets stabilized. And when you look at the subclavian vein, this is seldom used because there is a risk of having the vein getting stenosed. And most of the time, you need to have a good subclavian flow for the fistula, AV fistula that one does later on for good blood flow. So that's why subclavian is kept as a last resort. But we have put subclavian in certain situations where IJVs are blocked and then femoral access may be difficult, or maybe femoral veins also are blocked in certain cases. So very rarely we would use subclavian as well for the dialysis catheter. So for the internal jugular vein, the length of the catheters that commonly used are 15 centimeters. For femoral vein, the longer ones are generally used. But most of the time, practically, it will be the same catheter that is used for internal jugular and femoral vein. So any of the veins, we put a dialysis catheter. As you understand, the dialysis catheter is a wide lumen, so it has a much bigger lumen. So there is a risk of thrombosis. There's 26% is the risk of thrombosis that is referenced in some of the literature. So this is a good study. I'm sure many of the listeners would want to know which site is the one which is most favored. So this was a study which came from the French group called the Three Sites Study Group, which was published in NEJM in 2015. So this is one of the biggest study that we have, looking at comparing the different sites and the risks associated with the sites. So as you see, they had 2,532 patients equally distributed between internal jugular vein, femoral vein, and subclavian vein. If you look at the mechanical complications, it appeared highest in the subclavian vein. But when you look at the symptomatic DVT, it was least in the subclavian vein, followed by femoral and internal. So the risk of thrombosis was a little higher in the jugular vein. And when you look at the central line or catheter associated bloodstream infections, again, that was least in the subclavian vein. And this was followed by IJV and femoral. So when it comes to infection risk, subclavian appears to be the one which has the least infection, followed by the internal jugular vein. But when it comes to complications, it seems to be highest in the subclavian vein. So this is just for listeners to bear in mind the risk benefit when you are using any of these sites. So when you look at the catheter, so there are different parts to the catheter. So there is an arterial component and there is a venous lumen, and there is a septum between the arterial and the venous, so that there is no intermixing of the blood during the dialysis. And if you look at the arterial lumen, it is placed, the lumen of it is placed a little distal to the venous one. So there are two orifices, one for arterial and one venous, and then there is a septum separating these two passages. And when you are considering, obviously, in a acute situation, we would not be putting tunneled catheter. So what we'll be putting is a non-tunneled catheter. So whenever a dialysis catheter is put in for acute dialysis, the recommendation is it could stay within for up to 30 days. So it is not a long-term solution, but I'm sure all of you would agree that most of the places, once the catheter is in, it would remain for a fairly longer time until the fistula is done and matured. But when a tunneled catheter is put in, then our understanding is it can stay within the body for weeks to months. And the general recommendation is it can last up to 1 year. But after 1 year, one should contemplate looking at changing, because the risk of infection may go much higher. So this is just a ballpark sort of a number of days the catheter can remain. If it is non-tunneled catheter, it's for 1 month. If it's a tunneled catheter, it's for week to months, and up to 1 year it can last. And one needs to know what is this catheters made up of. So they are made up of a blood compatible material. Either it could be silicone or polyurethane. So silicones catheters are very pliable and they're very soft, and it may be sometimes difficult to negotiate. The commonly ones that are used in acute situation are polyurethane. And because these are little more rigid tubes and they have a better flow rates. And but the rigidity of these polyurethane tubes, they do soften over course of time as and when it is being used. So I'm sure most of you who are listening to this would have seen the catheter set. So it comes with a syringe and it comes with a sequential dilators. Then it comes with a blade to put a knife to make an incision, and then it does come with a guide wire, and then it has a catheter. So these are a very standard, very typical of a central venous catheter set. So these are some of the components I'm sure many of you would be aware. So obviously in this day and age, it is almost imperative that when you are putting a dialysis catheter, it has to happen under guidance of ultrasound. So in ultrasound, you have two views. So you have a short axis view, which is very commonly used by most of us to identify the vein. Then there is a long axis view, which we sometimes use to make sure that the guide wire which is passing through the lumen of it. Sometimes you may have difficulty negotiating the guide wire through the lumen of the vein. So long axis view is sometimes put in place to make sure that the guide wire is in the lumen and it is in the right place. So there is another view called oblique view, which is in between the short axis and long axis. So one can use any combination of these to make sure that the catheter is in the right place and the guide wire is passing through the right lumen. So before you start inserting the dialysis catheter, obviously any of you would be expected to know about the anatomy. I'm sure all of you would be familiar. So internal jugular vein, as you know, it comes lateral to the carotid artery, so which divides into internal and external carotid artery, and lateral to internal jugular vein would be the external jugular vein. So you need to know this sort of an anatomy when you are putting the line. And when you look in the ultrasound, this is how it looks. So you will have a internal jugular vein, which will be very collapsible. I'll show you a video of this. And then you have a another round one, which will be an artery, which will be more rigid. It will be pulsatile and it will be non-collapsible. So if you look into the video, this is how it looks. So I'll just show you the video. So you see, this is the vein, and this you see it would be very compressible. So you can see when you apply pressure, it is if you see the artery here, it is not compressible. So this is something very important for anyone who's doing the procedure to understand that veins will be very collapsible and it would lie lateral to the artery. Okay. So when you are putting a needle, so obviously you are expected to see, sometimes it's hard to exactly see the needle once it penetrates, but you would see the needle indenting the vein once it is, once it is approximating the vein and once it enters the lumen. So I'll just show you the video of insertion, go through the steps, and then we could discuss if there's any questions to this. So this is a procedure done within our ICU. So you can just go through some of the steps. So as you see, the person who's doing the procedure is ensuring the lumens are patent, and so he has flushed all the lumens to make sure there is no air that gets infused when they are putting the catheter in. So he's taking a local anesthesia. So just go through the steps. So that is the set that the person who's doing has kept there. So obviously skin preparation is done. So you would see the ultrasound probe being put into the sterile gloves, and you see there is a fair amount of jelly also that is put into the ultrasound, and then you need to have a wet surface for the vein visualization. So betadine can act as a good sort of an interface so that the visualization becomes good. You know, you will see the visualization soon. Okay, see now you would see. So there's an ultrasound machine there. Okay, so you see there is a vein there which is collapsing nicely, and you'll see a nice blob like artery which is not collapsing. So the person who is doing this within our ICU is visualizing in the ultrasound whilst he's giving a local anesthesia. So he knows there is a nice big vein and there is an artery which is medial to it, as you see. As you see, he's giving local anesthesia. Oops, sorry. If you can see that vein there. Okay, so he has taken the needle, the dialysis catheter needle. So now you'll see him doing a puncture under the ultrasound guidance. So you can see there's a nice vein and there's an artery very close to it. If you can see the blood coming through. So the Seldinger technique is typically used. So there's a guide wire passed as you see the venous blood coming out. So I think this is a very important and critical step where the puncture of the internal jugular vein is done under the ultrasound guidance. So he's absolutely sure that the approximation of this needle is happened into the vein and there is a guide wire which is passed smoothly into the vein. After that, the needle is removed. So obviously he is looking at the monitor to make sure that there is no arrhythmia, because once it enters the RV, you can have a sort of a arrhythmic beats. So he's making sure that this heart rhythm is okay. And then again, he's checking with the ultrasound the position of the guide wire. See, you can see that there's a white hyperdense one which is sitting in the vein. So he's now very sure that it is sitting in the vein. So you can see that white one, which is a dense sort of opacity you see. So he's absolutely sure the guide wire is nicely sitting in the vein. So then this is a very important step I need to emphasize. You need to make a very good and deep nick, because dialysis catheter is quite a big catheter. And if you do not make a good nick in the blade, so the dilator may have some lot of resistance, and in the process of pushing it against the resistance, you can kink the guide wire. So this is a very important step which every listener has to bear in mind, that you need to make a very nice deep nick with the blade for this, because these dilators are bigger dilators and the catheter is very big. So it is very important that good nick is made. As you see, there is a dilator which is being passed. So he has some resistance, but he'll get it through. Okay, you see it has gone in nicely. Then you'll see this is a bigger dilator. First, it will be a small dilator that will be taken to create a passage. After that, there'll be a bigger dilator. There'll be at least 2 to 3 size dilators that will be given. So you would be sequentially dilating with the bigger dilator. Okay, now he's passing the. So once dilation is done with 2 size dilators, now the catheter is being passed. So once you're pushing the catheter in, it is absolutely important to make sure that your guide wire is out, because we've had instances where even guide wires have been pushed in without getting the tip of the guide wire out. So that is very important for the beginner to bear in mind when you're putting the catheter in. So as you see, the catheter is, sorry. Okay, now he's pulled out the guide wire. And after the guide wire is pulled out, it is very important to make sure that there is a drainage, or the blood could be easily aspirated from all the 3 lumens. And after the procedure is done, it is very important to look at the vitals, make sure vitals are okay, and very important to get the X-ray done to make sure that the catheter is sitting in the right position and there is no iatrogenic complications like pneumothorax or hemothorax. So this is very important. So as you see, he's aspirating the blood from all the 3 lumens. And as you saw, he had made sure that he had aspirated all the lumens and put in saline, so that whilst you're aspirating, whilst you're negotiating the tube, air is not pushed in, because that can lead to air embolism. That also can be risky because the lumens of these catheters are very big. Okay, so you saw, so this procedure was done in our ICU by one of our team members. So this is how one would do the procedure under the ultrasound guidance. So another important thing we need to emphasize is, before doing this dialysis catheter vascular access procedure, it's important you follow all the standard aseptic precautions of wearing gloves and disposing of the gloves in the right position and sanitizing the hands with chlorhexidine. And it is very important to be fully gowned up with a mask, and it has to be a sterile gown, not the reusable gown. And the gown has to be removed as soon as possible after the procedure is done. So it is important one is protected with a eye shield also, and all the sharps have to be disposed in the sharps bin, and all the other equipments or all the other things that are used during the procedure should be disposed of appropriately in the disposable bins that would be present as per your hospital protocol. And it is very important, even before the procedure, during the procedure, and after the procedure, complete asepsis is maintained and good hand washing is practiced after the procedure as well. So I'll just show you a very quick video on the tunneled catheter. This is something which we, as an intensivist, we wouldn't do, but it is good to just have a look at the video as to how tunneled catheter is put. I'll just take you very quickly through this video. So that's that. So they are creating a tunnel. As you see, there is a tunnel that is created. So blood is aspirated. So it's just a quick video to look into how the tunneled catheter is put in. I'll just take you through. I think you may have missed one of the steps. Just have a look. So that's a tunnel created. So there is a guide wire sitting here, as you see. So tunnel is created with the catheter, and the catheter, the guide wire is pushed into the catheter. See that? Okay, you can see that. You see that? So that isn't it. So guide wire is used to push the catheter inside, so that the whole catheter remains under the skin and it is not exposed. Okay. So one needs to know, after you put in all the efforts to put in the dialysis catheter, there can be, you suddenly realize that catheter is not working as per your expectation. So there are many reasons for that. So there can be dialysis catheter dysfunction due to the kinking of the dialysis catheter. So if it is kinked of this nature, then there won't be enough blood flow. Or there can be a malposition of the catheter. So the catheter can be sitting in a subclavian vein, or it can be dislodged into another vein. So this would also affect your blood flow effectively. Or the catheter can be sitting in the narrow blood vessel, which will also impede the free flow of the blood. Or sometimes there can be a blood clot or stasis or hypercoagulable states which limit effective blood flow from the dialysis catheter. So once the dialysis catheter is put in, it is important to take care of the catheter. So it is important there is a chlorhexidine sort of a pad that is put on the catheter, and always dressing has to be with the clear adhesive waterproof dressing. And after the catheter is put in, it is very important to ensure that these clamps are closed and the exit ports are closed with the hubs. So it's very important that none of them are kept exposed to minimize the risk of infection. And with regards to dressing type, so as you see, this transparent self-adhesive semi-permeable dressing has to be replaced every week. It has to be replaced. And the gauze, the chlorhexidine gauze has to be kept during each hemodialysis treatment. And the chlorhexidine impregnated gauze has to be changed every weekly. So these are the some of the aspects that one should bear in mind after the dialysis catheter has been put in. So we have looked into the nuances about putting the internal jugular vein catheterization and the steps that one undertake and the ultrasound guidance. So let's look into subclavian vein. So if you look at the anatomy, so that's how the anatomy of subclavian vein looks. The main thing about subclavian is the insertion. The subclavian vein sits below the clavicle, so your needle has to go below the clavicle, and this is its relation to the first rib. So basically, your site of entry would be below the clavicle, and it will be close to the first rib and the sternum. So this is the direction of the needle that one would be putting to reach the subclavian vein. And ultrasound has to be used even while using subclavian vein. So when you put a transverse view, so you would visualize subclavian vein something like this. You'll see a round sort of a vein. And if you put a longitudinal view, you will look at the veins something like this. So when you look ultrasonically, I'll show you a video. So subclavian vein will be there, like internal jugular vein. You have a subclavian artery, which is very proximate or close to the subclavian vein, and then you have a clavicle. So I'll just show you this video, which will demonstrate how the subclavian vein looks in the video. So see, that's a subclavian. So you will see that's an axillary vein and axillary artery. So you will see the subclavian vein in a longitudinal view. So that's a subclavian vein and subclavian artery, and this is a pleural line. So you'll have a lung sliding sign very close to the subclavian vein. So that's why see that the glistening line you see, that's the pleural line. So that's the lung sliding sign you see. And this is the longitudinal vein of subclavian vein. So once you get this and the lung sliding, you know your ultrasound positioning to identify subclavian vein has been good. And then you insert the needle under the guidance. So you can see on the left side with ultrasound guidance. So when the clavicle comes, sometimes it's hard to visualize the vein. That's when you have to tilt the probe to visualize the subclavian vein a lot more clearly, because the clavicle comes in the way. To avoid that, you can do a sweeping view to get a better view of the subclavian vein. Okay, you can see on the left side now. So there is a needle that's being put. So subclavian vein is nicely seen on the longitudinal view, as you see. So that's the first strip. So that's the lung sliding. So you will see the person doing the procedure is putting it under ultrasound guidance. So this video is not from my ICU. It is taken from an internet. You can see the blood coming. So then the procedure, as you saw in the IJV, you'll put a guide wire and then complete the procedure. Okay, so we have finished IJV, subclavian. We'll go to the femoral vein. So if you look at the anatomy of femoral vein, so I'm sure all of you would be very familiar. So the way to remember is VAN. So vein comes medial, artery, and the nerve. So the medial most is the vein, so artery and the nerve. So this procedure was done in our ICU. So I'll just show the video of the femoral vein cannulation. So that's the right femoral vein. So this was done in our ICU. So local anesthesia infiltration was given. See, you can see that there's a nice femoral vein, and you can see the blood being aspirated, venous blood. Okay, you can see the guide wire being passed. You can see the sequential dilators. Okay, you can see the dilator going in. You can see the nice dilator that's gone in. Oh, sorry. So that's a bigger dilator that is passed. I'm just forwarding the video so that we finish this fast. Anyway, you know the steps. So now you see the catheter going in. Okay, so you can see the blood being aspirated. So this is a sonocyte video. So I think it's the same. So you can just go through the website and have a look. So I've shown you, I think what we did in our ICU, I showed you. So this is just a sonocyte video, which again shows you those artery, vein, and relations. Okay. So I think we have come to the end of this. So we finished IJV, subclavian, and femoral. So what are the complications of, so since we commonly put internal jugular vein, so the complications is it can cause injury to any of the proximate structures that you would see. It can cause injury to the airway if you are completely off the landmarks. It can cause injury to the subclavian artery. It can cause injury to carotid artery, or it can cause injury to the nerves that are present. So any of the nearby structures, there can be injury. And most dreaded complications is all this: pneumothorax, hemothorax, and chylothorax. And the common complications is malposition of the catheter, arterial puncture, hemorrhage from the site, pneumothorax, cardiac arrhythmias, and thrombosis. So these are the common complications. So thank you very much. So this was just a workshop video. So hopefully those videos would help you to understand the steps and some of the precautions that one has to take, and the and the use of ultrasound in doing any of these procedures. So thank you all.